So I'm sure some of you guys haven't seen this yet, but I did do a speedster teamwork build a couple of weeks ago. Well, it's time to help that build out with today's teamwork builds. So be sure to check out that video after this one. But before we get into this build, you should check out my demolitionist video if you don't know what the demolitionist does. You can check that out right here. So, with all that out of the way, it's time for the Alchemical Trapper. Let's dive in. So, for today's ancestry, we're going to be going with the Hobgoblin, as that will help us with the alchemical part of this build, as well as some other things. And for our heritage, we can go with any Hobgoblin heritage we want here. We're not going to be taking any feats that require a specific heritage. However, what I wouldn't do is take a versatile heritage here, as Hobgoblins already get dark vision, and we don't need feats from other ancestries. Or what I should say is any feats that a versatile heritage would give us. I personally have played this game a long time, and I know that Underground is quite common as a location to fight. So that's why I went with Warren-bred Hobgoblin. But the heritage that you pick here will ultimately depend on your campaign. For background, we do need a specific background for this build. We're going to be taking the Pyre Tender background. The thing is, while we are using the Demolitionist archetype, we actually won't be going Alchemist here. So we need that alchemical crafting feat as soon as possible, as that is a major part of this build. And if we're not going Alchemist, then what class are we taking? That's simple. We're actually taking the Ranger class. Why? Well, this build is all about trapping the opponent. So the Ranger's awesome class DC is going to help a lot. And for our Hunter's Edge, we're going to want to be using an alchemical crossbow for this build. So our best bet is the Precision Hunter's Edge, as that will give us some good damage on the first attack of a round. And of course, the starting stats for this build should be Strength 10, Dexterity 18, Constitution 12, Intelligence 14, Wisdom 14, and Charisma 10. We'll talk about why those particular stats as we go through this build. And now, for our first class feat, we're going to take Gravity Weapon for two reasons. The first reason is that this will give us a little bit more damage when we're not setting traps. The second reason is that we need a Warden spell to take the feat that we're going to take at second level, but I'll get to that shortly. As for our Ancestry feat at first level, we're going to take Alchemical Scholar. We are not an alchemist, so we need a way to get formulas as we level up. And this will give us that. Granted, not as much as if we were an alchemist, but at least it's something. And in case it wasn't obvious, we need to take bombs and poisons for our formulas for this. Bombs for our alchemical crossbow and our demolitionist archetype, and poisons for our other traps. At level 2, we'll be taking the snare hopping feat. This of course gives us the focus spell of the same name, which will of course allow us to move our snares. This of course is why we need Gravity Weapon, so we have Warden spells to actually take this. And then of course, like all my builds, I do use the free archetype. So this is where we'll take our Demolitionist dedication. Set explosives is one way we can help our speedster friend in sticky situations, but we'll talk about that when I get to the teamwork. And of course, at level 3, we get our general feats. And these are the ones you should take. First up is Die Hard and Toughness, which of course I always take for all these builds. However, we won't be taking Canny Acumen for this build. The reason being is that there are 3 other feats that we actually need for this build. And our will saves aren't that important for this build, and we'll talk about why in the teamwork. Plus, we do want our wisdom to be high. We'll need it to be high to take advantage of other feats in this build, which we'll talk about later. Anyway, the 3 other feats we'll need are Ancestral Paragon for the Twitchy feats, as that +1 to saves against hazards is going to help against other trappers. And a +1 to initiative never hurts. And yes, I know that's a goblin feat, but we're going to be able to take goblin feats by level 5, so don't worry about that. Then the other 2 feats that are very important for this build are Prescient Planner and Prescient Consumable, especially Prescient Consumable. We're not an alchemist, so being able to pull out a alchemical item on the fly when we run out of them is really going to help. And then for level 4, we're going to take Snare Specialists. That'll give us more snares. Because this build isn't about just the explodey stuff. We also want traps that will slow down our opponents. And we can't really poison an explodey trap, so we need other traps. Speaking of explodey traps, it's now time for Demolition Charge. That, of course, will allow us to use up to 4 bombs in a trap that we can activate as a reaction, instead of when an enemy walks into it. And now we come to our level 5 Ancestry feats. This is where we'll take Runt Sage. That'll give us the Adopted Ancestry feat for Goblin and a first level Goblin Ancestry feat. And for that feat, we're going to choose Very Sneaky. As because we are a trapper, we might want to be stealthing around to set our traps. For today's first teamwork report, let's talk about how this build and our speedster build can help each other out. Unfortunately, right now at level 5, there's only really one way that this build can help out our speedster friends, and that is with set explosives. See, our speedster can't fly right away, and even when he can, some wall spells can be made into hemispheres, which means no flying out for our speedster, right? Wrong with us around. We can use set explosives to blow up said wall, allowing our speedster to move freely. But how can our speedster help us? Well, put simply, the speedster is a great distraction for everyone, and that can help us in 2 ways. First, because our speedster is so fast, he can very easily lead enemies into our traps, including our explodey ones from Demolition Charge. And the second reason is our low will saves. Who do you think the enemy spellcaster is going to want to dominate more? The guy setting traps, or the guy who can be in their face with 1 action? And if you guys haven't seen it yet or you don't remember, that builds highest save as well. And in case it wasn't obvious, we need our intelligence to be high for our crafting skill. We'll talk about why we need our wisdom to be high later on in this video. And of course, we're going to be using a crossbow, so we need our dex to be high. All the other stats for this build really don't matter. If you want more toughness, take Constitution like I did. Otherwise, you may want to take Charisma for Intimidation. So for the rest of the feats, first we want to take Monster Hunter to help us with our recall knowledge. Then Calculated Splash for a little more splash damage with our bombs. Then Powerful Snares so we can use our class DC for our snares. And Controlled Blast so that our Calculated Splash actually applies to our set explosives or Demolition Charge. For our 9th level Ancestry feat, sometimes we're going to want to destroy an object that we can't get close to. Like for instance, a trap. And Vandal will get us trained in Thievery, and if we hit an object with a bomb, we ignore the first 5 points of hardness. Or of course we can also use our crossbow if we want, and this will still apply. Master Monster Hunter will let us use nature to recall knowledge about any creature. Thus why we need high wisdom for this build. And directional bombs will help us avoid allies with our splash damage. Double Prey will let us hunt 2 prey at once, but we're only taking this for a feat we're going to take later on. Collapse Wall will let us do even more damage to our enemies when we hit them with our explodey traps. For our 13th level Ancestry feat, Very, Very Sneaky will make us even sneakier. And Warden's Boon will let us give our Hunt Prey bonus to an ally for a turn. An expanded splash will give us more splash area on our bombs. Thanks to Control Blast, this does apply to our bomb traps. And Legendary Monster Hunter will increase the bonus from Monster Hunter to +2. And since we're done with what we need from the Demolitionist archetype, we are now going to take the Snare Crafter dedication, as there are a couple of feats that are going to help with this build from that. And then we come to our last ancestry feat, and we're going to take Cantorian Restoration. This will allow us to keep an ally from dying. There really isn't a great goblin feat we can take for this build here, but this feat is always good, no matter what type of class you're playing. Then we'll pick up Ubiquitous Snares for more snares, and Quick Snares to deploy our snares rather quickly. And now we come to level 20. First up, we have Shared Prey, allowing us to give an ally our hunt prey bonuses for longer. And lastly, we'll take Lightning Snares to deploy our snares even quicker. For Teamwork Report number 2, our Speedster isn't really going to help us in any other way than what I talked about in the last Teamwork Reports. But at this level, we can help our Speedster quite a bit more now. First of all, at this point, we're really good at Recall Knowledge, which means not only do we have a better chance of hitting enemy weaknesses, which is always good, but we may be able to tell our Speedster friend whether it's prudent to trip the opponent or stun him, depending on which save is their lowest. Also, now we have access to a lot of traps that will slow down opponents, making it even harder for them to catch up to our Speedster. But if you guys enjoyed this video, leave a like, and don't forget to check out the Patreon page if you want a Google Sheet for this build and a whole bunch of other builds. I'm going to be taking a break for a while until I can get access to the new High Helm book. I will definitely be at least covering some of that. But if you guys are interested in that Speedster build, you can check out this video here. Thank you guys so much for watching, and remember, teamwork is vital.